Chosen one. You're here not by chance, but by divine orchestration. Heaven itself has aligned this moment, drawing you here because your spirit stands poised on the precipice of a supernatural shift. What you're about to receive isn't mere insight into your mother's life. It's a profound revelation. A key, if you will, that unlocks your next level of growth, facilitates deep healing, and even activates a divine transfer of wealth into your life. You, anointed one, are about to experience God's tender touch on those long-neglected, misunderstood, or deeply buried parts of yourself. This is your Kairos moment, the turning of the page, the dawn of a new chapter. Open your heart. Let your spirit soar because what unfolds next is the genesis of your breakthrough. Chosen one, before we delve any deeper, I need you to grasp this truth with every fiber of your being. Nothing, absolutely nothing, in your story has been random. Not the timing of events, not the emotional wounds you've endured, not the persistent questions that haunt your mind, and certainly not the serendipitous way you stumbled upon this message. Heaven has been gently guiding you, drawing you closer, meticulously aligning every step until your spirit has arrived at this very point. The threshold of revelation, healing, and a profound elevation in your life. And I speak from experience, from the depths of my own journey through the shadows, a time when I grappled with questions that seemed to defy articulation. There were nights filled with a gnawing confusion, wondering why those who were meant to love me unconditionally struggled to offer the very embrace I craved. Why affection felt conditional, earned rather than freely given. Why home, the supposed sanctuary, didn't always feel safe, and why simply being seen felt like a dangerous exposure. If any of this resonates with you, chosen one, then listen closely. You are not alone on this path. And this path, though fraught with challenges, is sacred. Your healing journey doesn't commence in a place of perfect clarity, where everything neatly aligns and makes sense. No, it begins in the very heart of the chaos, in the places where nothing seemed to add up. Many of us were raised by mothers who carried within them unspoken storms, women who, in many ways, were still children themselves, yet burdened with the expectations of parenthood. Women who loved in fragmented ways, their capacity for affection limited by the wounds they never had the chance to heal. And yes, they provided for us, but they couldn't always create a safe space for our emotions. They nourished our bodies, but they couldn't always satisfy the yearnings of our souls. Their love, though present, flickered under the heavy weight of their own unresolved pain. And because of this, chosen one, you adapted. You learned to shrink yourself, to make others feel more comfortable in your presence. You developed an uncanny ability to predict moods before voices were even raised. You learned to survive by being quiet, being cautious, being invisible. You learned that expressing your needs too openly meant risking too much. So, you protected yourself in the only way a child knew how, by retreating inward, disappearing into the recesses of your own life. But even then, even in those early years when love felt conditional and affection felt unstable, something sacred remained unbroken within you. A resilient spark that the world couldn't extinguish. A deep knowing, a persistent whisper, a divine imprint upon your soul. Because you were not created to subsist on mere scraps of love. You were formed by the one who is the very essence of love itself. And that is why the ache within you has always been far greater than your experiences. That is why you've always yearned for something deeper, something safer, something whole. The longing in your heart was never evidence of some inherent flaw within you. It was and is evidence that something higher is calling you forward. Chosen one. The question, "What's wrong with me?" has echoed in the hearts of so many for far too long. But it was never your burden to carry. You were asking the wrong question all along. The question was never, "What's wrong with me?" The question was, "What broke them? And why did I internalize the belief that it was my responsibility to fix it?" And let me declare this prophetically over you. You were never sent to rescue your mother. You were sent to reveal the possibility of redemption. Some of the most powerful chosen ones on this earth were raised in homes where tenderness was a rare commodity and emotional safety was never guaranteed. This doesn't disqualify you. It marks you. It shapes you for your divine purpose. Heaven often conceals its strongest warriors in the most unlikely of beginnings. Because when you've spent your formative years learning how to sense danger, how to interpret subtle emotional currents, how to soothe pain that isn't even your own, you unknowingly cultivate a spiritual discernment that becomes a supernatural weapon. I've witnessed it in my own life. The very instincts that once forced me into silence became the very same instincts that God used to teach me how to hear His voice, how to read the atmosphere of a room, how to protect others, how to see beyond superficial appearances. What the world labeled as a trauma response, heaven recognized as a training ground. And chosen one, the same holds true for you. You weren't abandoned. You were apprenticed by fire, forged in the crucible of challenging circumstances. And hear this truth. Heaven did not overlook your tears. Every silent ache, every lonely night, every moment you wished she could truly see you, heaven saw. Heaven recorded it all. Heaven remembered. And heaven has been meticulously preparing a restoration for you long before you even realized you needed it. This is why you've always felt different from those around you. This is why you've always carried a sensitivity that others simply couldn't understand. This is why you've always been drawn to healing, to truth, and to a deeper sense of meaning, because your calling was being forged in the very environment that sought to silence it. But now, Anointed One, heaven is orchestrating a shift in your story. You are stepping into a moment where the past no longer dictates your identity. Instead, it fuels your authority. The wounds that once weakened you are now transforming into the very wisdom that strengthens you. What was intended to break you is becoming the foundation upon which God builds your purpose. And yes, this process can feel incredibly uncomfortable. Can feel as though the very ground beneath your feet is shifting. But that is simply the sign that profound transformation is underway. You are no longer merely wrestling with your past. You are wrestling with the version of yourself that learned to survive it. You are being invited into a higher identity, a truer identity, one that heaven has been calling you toward since the very beginning. And chosen one, before we delve any deeper, before we uncover the intricate layers of your story and reveal the blueprint for your healing, I need you to pause, take a deep breath, and receive this truth. You are not here to carry the pain that raised you. You are here to transcend it. Now take another breath. Let that truth settle deep within your soul. Because where we're about to journey next will forever alter the way you perceive your past. Chosen one. As we venture deeper into this journey of healing and self-discovery, I want you to grasp a profound truth, something that most people spend their entire lives actively avoiding. Healing doesn't magically begin when the past ceases to hurt. Healing truly begins when you finally, courageously, acknowledge the subtle ways in which the past has continued to speak within you, long after the initial moments themselves have faded. The most deafening wounds are rarely those that happened out in the open, with dramatic pronouncements and visible scars. No, they are the insidious ones that echo in the silence, shaping your perceptions and influencing your choices in ways you may not even consciously realize. Many chosen ones navigate their way into adulthood under the illusion that they have successfully moved on. Simply because they have grown older, established their independence by moving out, or diligently constructed a life that appears outwardly successful. But the mere passage of age does not silence the internalized voice of a wounded mother. The relentless march of time does not automatically erase the emotional programming that was deeply ingrained within you during your formative years. Physical distance does not necessarily sever the ingrained patterns that were meticulously written into your very nervous system when you were far too young to possess the cognitive ability to fully understand what was being done to you. And that is precisely why this particular part of your healing journey feels so deeply sacred, so profoundly personal, and, at times, so agonizingly precise. You are no longer simply confronting your mother as an individual. You are confronting the internalized version of yourself that was meticulously shaped and molded by her unhealed wounds. This is the critical point where healing transcends the realm of the merely emotional and ascends into the spiritual. This is where healing becomes powerfully prophetic, unlocking your potential and rewriting your destiny. And this is the pivotal moment where heaven begins the intricate work of rearranging your very identity from the inside out, dismantling the old structures and erecting new ones built on a foundation of truth and wholeness. Chosen one. The unvarnished truth is this. Your mother may have ceased to speak those words aloud years ago, but her voice, her internalized beliefs and fears, continued to reside within you. It became the insidious whisper that cautioned you against asking for too much, lest you be perceived as greedy or demanding. It morphed into the ever-present caution that subtly warned you that experiencing genuine joy was somehow inherently unsafe, as if you didn't deserve it or it would be snatched away. It manifested as the unspoken pressure to constantly shrink yourself, to minimize your presence and dim your light so that others wouldn't feel threatened or intimidated by your potential. It took the form of the deep-seated fear that constantly urged you to stay quiet, to avoid conflict at all costs, and to maintain a superficial sense of peace, even if it meant sacrificing your own authenticity. These weren't deliberate, conscious choices you made. They were deeply ingrained survival responses, born out of necessity in a household where emotional stillness often felt infinitely safer than the messy, unpredictable terrain of emotional honesty and vulnerability. And yet, even amidst those moments when you felt compelled to silence your own needs and desires, something indomitable within your spirit refused to succumb. It remained awake, vigilant, and stubbornly alive. It stayed alert, constantly scanning the horizon for any sign of safety or opportunity. It remained exquisitely sensitive to the unspoken needs of others, even at the expense of your own. That inherent sensitivity is not a sign of weakness or fragility. It is, in fact, the unmistakable mark of someone whom heaven has been meticulously shaping since the very beginning, preparing you for a purpose far greater than you can currently imagine. You learned how to sense subtle shifts in the emotional atmosphere, how to anticipate unspoken needs, and how to navigate treacherous emotional landscapes. You learned how to read the emotional climate of a room with uncanny accuracy, often before a single word was even spoken. You cultivated a keen sense of discernment long before you even possessed the vocabulary to articulate what you were experiencing. What felt like paralyzing fear back then is now transforming into a potent source of spiritual intuition. What felt like debilitating hypervigilance then is now evolving into prophetic sight, allowing you to see beyond the surface and perceive the deeper truths that others often miss. This is why your calling feels so weighty, so significant. This is why your emotions run so deep, often overwhelming you with their intensity. This is why your capacity for empathy seems to far exceed that of those around you. You weren't too emotional. You were, and are, spiritually wired, finely tuned to the frequencies of the divine. You were being trained in ways you couldn't possibly comprehend at the time, prepared for a mission that would require the very gifts that once felt like burdens. And now, heaven is orchestrating a powerful transformation, turning what once felt like an unbearable burden into a source of supernatural ability. But before you can fully ascend into that higher identity, before you can embrace the fullness of your potential, you must first confront the internal vows that have kept you tethered to an outdated version of yourself. Every chosen one eventually uncovers these hidden vows, the silent agreements made in the innocence of childhood, promises whispered to oneself in an attempt to maintain a sense of safety and stability in a chaotic world. Agreements like, I won't allow myself to be happier than she was. If I do, it will somehow invalidate her suffering. I won't outgrow the limiting story she stayed trapped in. To do so would be a betrayal of our shared experience. If I shine too brightly, my light will only serve to make her feel smaller, less adequate. If I allow myself to become whole, I will inevitably leave her behind, abandoning her in her pain. If I heal from my wounds, it will only expose the depth of her own, causing her even greater pain. Chosen one. These agreements, though born out of a misguided sense of loyalty and compassion, were never truly rooted in love. They were, at their core, survival mechanisms, desperate attempts to maintain connection and avoid abandonment. And survival, though necessary in certain seasons, is not your ultimate destiny. There was a significant season in my own life when I harbored a deep-seated fear of experiencing joy. Not because joy was unattainable or unavailable to me, but because it felt inherently dangerous, like transgressing an invisible boundary that had been etched into my very soul. I subconsciously believed that rising above the pain and limitations of my upbringing would somehow constitute a profound betrayal of the ones who had shaped me, however imperfectly. So, I deliberately dimmed my own light. I kept myself half present, half alive, afraid to fully embrace the potential that lay dormant within me. And then, in one of the quietest, most intimate moments of prayer, God whispered something that shattered years of emotional bondage and self-imposed limitations. Your joy does not dishonor them. Your joy redeems them. Those simple yet profound words broke something wide open within me. They dismantled the insidious lie that becoming more, that fully embracing my potential, was somehow a betrayal of my past. They shattered the false belief that healing inevitably created distance between myself and the people I loved. They exposed the lie that freedom meant disloyalty and abandonment. And chosen one, I speak this over you now with the same divine authority and unwavering conviction. You were never meant to simply repeat your mother's story, to perpetuate the cycles of pain and limitation that have haunted your lineage for generations. You were divinely ordained to transcend it, to rise above the limitations and create a new narrative for yourself and for those who come after you. Your healing does not erase her existence or diminish her experiences. Your healing elevates her, transforming her legacy from one of pain and struggle to one of resilience and hope. Your healing becomes the catalyst that completes what she could not finish, that breaks the chains of generational trauma that she did not possess the strength to break on her own. Your healing becomes the very redemption your bloodline has been desperately waiting for. The enemy, the force of darkness that seeks to keep you bound to the past, wants you to believe that becoming whole, that fully embracing your potential, somehow makes you ungrateful, that it diminishes the sacrifices of those who came before you. But heaven declares the exact opposite. Becoming whole is the most profound way you can honor the ones who paved the way for you, however imperfectly. You are not here to live as a restrained, diminished version of yourself, perpetually guarding and protecting the memory of someone who never had the tools or resources to learn how to be truly free. You are here to embody the very freedom they longed for but never had the means to attain. And this is where the divine shift truly begins. When you consciously choose to stop perceiving yourself as a mere extension of your mother's pain and begin to recognize yourself as an extension of God's unwavering promise, everything undergoes a radical transformation. Your very identity shifts. Your emotions are recalibrated. Your expectations are elevated. Your vision for the future expands beyond the limitations of the past. Suddenly, the limitations you once passively accepted as your reality begin to feel foreign, constricting, and utterly unacceptable. The guilt you have been carrying for so long begins to dissipate, its power waning with each step you take toward wholeness. The silence you once employed as a shield of protection no longer fits the person you are becoming. It feels stifling, like a cage holding you back from expressing your authentic self. Chosen one, this is your turning point. This is the pivotal moment where the internal war that has raged within you for so long begins to lose its power, its grip on your soul loosening with each breath you take. This is where heaven initiates the process of rewriting the script of your life from the inside out, dismantling the old narratives and replacing them with ones filled with hope, purpose, and divine potential. This is where you consciously choose to stop living your life in order to avoid someone else's disappointment and instead begin to live in alignment with God's divine assignment for your life, embracing your unique gifts and pursuing your passions with unwavering courage. Take a deep breath. Allow this profound truth to settle into the deepest recesses of your being, permeating every cell of your body. You are not becoming your mother, simply repeating her patterns and perpetuating her pain. You are becoming who God always intended you to be, the masterpiece He meticulously crafted before you were even born, the vessel of light and love He designed to fulfill a unique and extraordinary purpose on this earth. Chosen one. Healing becomes truly transformative the moment you grasp the profound understanding that the wounds you carry are no longer simply fragmented memories from a distant childhood. They have, over time, evolved into intricate internal architectures, subtly shaping how you think, how you feel, and how you navigate the complexities of the world around you. What once merely happened around you, as external events beyond your control, has, for years, been actively happening inside you, subtly influencing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways you may not even consciously recognize. And this is the critical point where the real work truly begins. Not at the superficial surface of your story, merely recounting the events of the past, but at the deepest roots, excavating the hidden beliefs and patterns that have been silently shaping your life for far too long. For many who grew up under the pervasive shadow of a mother wounded by her own unresolved history, the emotional inheritance passed down was not one of tenderness, affection, and nurturing, but rather one of constant tension, anxiety, and suppressed emotions. It was not an environment of safety, security, and unconditional love, but rather one of constant survival, hypervigilance, and the unspoken need to anticipate and manage the emotions of others. A child absorbs what a mother never learned how to name, internalizing her unspoken fears, her hidden anxieties, and her unacknowledged traumas. You absorbed her silence, her inability to express her true feelings or to articulate her needs. You absorbed her fear, her constant sense of unease and apprehension about the future. You absorbed her shame, the deep-seated belief that she was somehow unworthy of love, happiness, or belonging. And in the process, you unwittingly began to construct an inner world that was designed not for vibrant living, joyful connection, and authentic self-expression, but rather for mere enduring, for simply surviving the emotional storms of your childhood. But chosen one, the very identity that helped you endure those challenging circumstances is not the identity that will empower you to rise into your full potential, to embrace your divine calling, and to live a life of purpose, passion, and unwavering joy. This is the sacred dilemma that lies at the heart of every soul marked by heaven, destined for greatness, yet shaped by the imperfections of human experience. You were born into a story you did not choose, thrust into circumstances beyond your control. You were raised under emotional weather patterns you could not regulate, forced to adapt to an environment that was often unpredictable, chaotic, and emotionally unsafe. And you were unwittingly trained in reactions that were never meant to become your permanent nature, conditioned to respond in ways that compromised your authenticity and suppressed your true self. Yet, for years, the voice inside you, the one that dictated your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors, did not truly belong to you. It was not the authentic expression of your own soul, but rather the internalized voice of the patterns you inherited from your past, the echoes of the traumas you absorbed, and the residue of the limiting beliefs that were imposed upon you. It is the voice that whispers, "Ask for nothing. Your needs are not important. You don't deserve to take up space." The voice that warns, "Joy is inherently unsafe. If you allow yourself to be happy, something bad will inevitably happen." The voice that insists, "Do not outshine her. Your success will only make her feel inadequate, so it's better to stay small." The voice that fears, "If you thrive, you will lose love. Your worth is conditional upon meeting the needs of others." That voice is not the voice of the Holy Spirit, the gentle guidance of your divine intuition. It is the lingering residue of survival, the echo of the past that continues to haunt your present. And survival, though once a necessary adaptation, becomes suffocating, limiting, and ultimately destructive when your spirit is ready to ascend, to break free from the confines of the past and embrace the fullness of its divine potential. Healing at this profound level demands unwavering honesty, not simply about your mother's limitations and imperfections, but more importantly, about yourself. About the subtle ways you learned to disappear, to shrink yourself, to make her feel less overwhelmed by the weight of her own emotions. About the joy you deliberately dimmed, fearing that your happiness would only serve to make her feel smaller, more inadequate. About the dreams you consciously delayed, believing that pursuing your own aspirations would somehow create distance between you and her, severing the fragile bond you so desperately sought to maintain. About the worthiness you silently questioned, internalizing the unspoken message that you were somehow not deserving of the very love and affirmation that she could not offer, having never received it herself. This is the often unseen cost of a childhood shaped by unhealed mothers, the lingering belief that love must be earned, deserved, or constantly negotiated, that your worth is conditional upon meeting the needs of others. But here is the truth, the liberating revelation that heaven is speaking to you now, in this very moment. You did not become your mother, simply replicating her patterns and perpetuating her pain. You became the child who learned how to survive her pain, who adapted to the challenging circumstances and developed coping mechanisms to navigate the emotional storms of your childhood. And now, God is inviting you to become something entirely different, the healed adult she never had the chance to become, the embodiment of wholeness, freedom, and unconditional self-love. This is the precise moment where healing transcends the limitations of emotional reflection and ascends into the realm of profound spiritual transformation. God begins to dismantle the ingrained reflexes you mistakenly believed were simply personality traits, the automatic responses that have been shaping your behavior for years. He gently exposes the fear you mistakenly believed was humility, the insidious voice that cautioned you against shining too brightly. He reveals the silence you mistook for peace, the quiet compliance that allowed you to avoid conflict but ultimately stifled your authentic self-expression. He uncovers the guilt you confused with loyalty, the false belief that you were somehow obligated to carry the burdens of others, sacrificing your own well-being in the process. He tenderly coaxes the younger version of you to loosen her grip on the past, to release the burdens she has been carrying for far too long, and to allow your spirit to lead, to guide you toward the life you were always meant to live. I remember experiencing this profound shift myself, the subtle yet undeniable awakening that marked a turning point in my healing journey. There was a moment, seemingly insignificant at the time, yet deeply transformative in retrospect, when I realized I was afraid of joy. Not because joy was inherently unavailable or unattainable, but because joy felt disloyal, almost dangerous, as if exceeding the emotional ceiling of my upbringing would somehow betray the people who raised me, invalidating their struggles and exposing my own privilege. It took me years to fully understand this one profound truth. We often remain half-healed, subconsciously clinging to our wounds, out of a misguided sense of respect or loyalty for the people who loved us only to the limited level of their own capacity. And in that quiet moment of prayer, bathed in the gentle light of divine revelation, God whispered something that broke a chain inside me, shattering the limitations I had unknowingly imposed upon myself. Your joy does not dishonor her. Your joy redeems her. Chosen one, your mother's unfinished story is not yours to finish by remaining small, by sacrificing your own potential, or by dimming your own light. Your healing does not erase her, nor does it invalidate her experiences. It elevates her, transforming her legacy from one of pain and limitation to one of resilience, hope, and the possibility of future generations breaking free from the cycles of trauma. Your growth does not betray her, nor does it imply that you are somehow better than she is. It breaks what broke her, dismantling the chains of generational pain and rewriting the narrative for your entire bloodline. Your freedom does not abandon her, nor does it mean you are leaving her behind. It completes what she never had the strength to complete, fulfilling the dreams she was never able to pursue and embodying the wholeness she longed for but could never attain. This is why the emotional tug-of-war inside you has felt so intense, so relentless. You are being pulled between two vastly different worlds. The world you were born into, shaped by the limitations of the past, and the world you are called to build, a future filled with hope, purpose, and boundless potential. The child within you, still yearning for her mother's love and approval, wants to protect her, to shield her from any further pain. The adult in you, however, recognizes the need to rise above the limitations of the past, to break free from the chains of generational trauma, and to embrace the fullness of your divine calling. And God is calling you to do both, to honor your mother's legacy while simultaneously refusing to repeat her pain, to acknowledge the challenges she faced while choosing to create a new narrative for your own life. He is inviting you to embark on a journey of radical self-discovery, to heal the wounds of the past, and to step into the fullness of your divine potential. Every chosen one eventually reaches a turning point, a pivotal moment of decision where they must consciously choose. Will I continue to carry the heavy weight of her wounds, allowing her pain to define my own life? Or will I choose to carry the promise that God has placed on my life, embracing my divine calling and stepping into the fullness of my potential? This choice is not about judgment, nor is it about blaming your mother for the challenges you have faced. It is about liberation, both for yourself and for her, breaking free from the cycles of generational trauma and creating a new legacy of healing and hope. Because when you heal, you do not heal from your mother, as if she is a disease you need to eradicate. You heal for your mother, becoming the embodiment of the love, joy, and freedom she longed for but could never attain. You become the life her pain could not produce, the living testament to the power of healing and redemption. You become the clarity her confusion could not reach, the guiding light that illuminates the path for future generations to break free from the cycles of trauma and embrace their divine potential. You become the wholeness her brokenness could not find, the embodiment of healing and wholeness that transcends the limitations of the past. You become the answered prayer she never knew how to pray, the manifestation of the divine grace that transforms pain into purpose and limitations into boundless potential. And the moment you wholeheartedly embrace this truth, the shame that has followed you for so long begins to loosen its grip, its power diminishing with each step you take toward wholeness. The guilt that has stalked your joy, whispering insidious lies and sabotaging your happiness, begins to weaken, its voice fading into the background as you embrace your right to experience joy without apology. The voice that demanded smallness, that urged you to remain hidden and diminished, begins to fade, losing its authority over your life. In its place rises a steadier voice, gentle, quiet, unmistakable, the unwavering voice of your Creator, reminding you that you were always meant to rise, to shine, to thrive, and to fulfill your unique and extraordinary purpose on this earth. Chosen one, healing is not about becoming someone new, erasing your past, or pretending that the challenges you have faced never happened. It is about remembering who you were before the world touched you, before the wounds of the past shaped your identity, before the limitations of others defined your potential. It is about reclaiming your authentic self, the divine essence that has always resided within you, waiting to be awakened. And you are beginning to remember, chosen one. There comes a moment in every healing journey when the past stops appearing as a distant memory, a collection of stories that you can recount with detached objectivity, and begins rising within you as a quiet but undeniable weight, a heavy burden that you can no longer ignore. It is in this sacred moment that the process of healing shifts from mere intellectual understanding into profound emotional release, from recalling the events of the past into surrendering to the present moment, from simply surviving the challenges of life into actively transforming your future. Many chosen ones begin to realize, with a dawning sense of clarity, that the burdens they have carried for years, the emotional baggage they have been lugging around since childhood, were never truly theirs to hold in the first place. You carried your mother's emotions, her unspoken fears, her silent sorrow, and her turbulent storms, as if they were your own, internalizing her pain and allowing it to define your own identity. And for a long time you believed this was love, a selfless act of compassion and empathy, a way of showing your devotion to the person who gave you life. But this moment marks the beginning of profound clarity, the dawning understanding that what once protected you, what once helped you survive the challenges of your childhood, is now what needs to be undone, dismantled, and released. For so long, you were shaped by roles you never consciously chose, forced to adapt to circumstances beyond your control. You became the peacekeeper, the one who constantly mediated conflicts and smoothed over disagreements, striving to maintain harmony in a chaotic environment. You became the emotional interpreter, the one who intuitively understood the unspoken needs and feelings of others, translating their emotions and anticipating their reactions. You became the invisible stabilizer of a home that demanded more from you than any child should ever give, sacrificing your own needs and desires in an attempt to create a sense of stability and security for everyone else. You learned to monitor moods before words were spoken, developing an uncanny ability to sense subtle shifts in the emotional atmosphere, anticipating potential conflicts and adjusting your behavior accordingly. You learned to silence yourself so others would not become louder, suppressing your own voice and opinions in order to avoid confrontation or judgment. And you learned to dim your light so her shadows would not grow larger, minimizing your own accomplishments and downplaying your strengths in order to protect the fragile ego of the person who was supposed to be nurturing and supporting you. You lived in a state of constant emotional hyper-awareness, always attuned to the needs of others, always striving to create a sense of safety and stability, always believing that if you could be perfect enough, quiet enough, or helpful enough, you could somehow earn the love you never fully received, fill the void within your own heart, and finally feel worthy of belonging. But healing asks you to examine these ingrained patterns, not with blame, condemnation, or self-pity, but with truth, compassion, and unwavering self-acceptance. You were never meant to become your mother's shield, her comfort, her unspoken remedy, the one who absorbed her pain and sacrificed her own well-being in the process. You were meant to be her child, to experience the joys of childhood, to be nurtured and supported, to be loved unconditionally, and to be allowed to grow into your full potential without the burden of carrying the weight of her unresolved wounds. And this truth, as painful as it may be to acknowledge, becomes the doorway into profound emotional liberation, the key that unlocks the chains that have bound you to the past and prevents you from fully embracing your future. When you realize that love never required you to disappear, that your worth is not contingent upon meeting the needs of others, and that you are deserving of unconditional love and acceptance simply for being who you are, something deep within you finally wakes up, stirs to life, and begins to reclaim its rightful place. The guilt you carried for wanting happiness, for daring to dream of a life filled with joy and fulfillment, begins to loosen its grip, its power diminishing with each step you take toward wholeness. The fear of becoming more than she was, of surpassing her accomplishments or exceeding her limitations, starts to dissolve, replaced by a growing sense of confidence and self-assurance. You begin to see that shrinking yourself was not devotion, not a sign of love or loyalty, but rather survival, a necessary adaptation to a challenging environment, a coping mechanism that allowed you to endure the emotional storms of your childhood. And God is now calling you out of survival and into identity, inviting you to step into the fullness of your authentic self, to embrace your divine potential, and to live a life of purpose, passion, and unwavering joy. This shift is uncomfortable, challenging, and even frightening, because for the first time, you must confront the emotional vows you formed in childhood, the unspoken promises you made to yourself in an attempt to maintain a sense of safety and stability in a chaotic world. The vow not to outgrow her, not to surpass her accomplishments or exceed her limitations, fearing that your success would only highlight her own perceived failures. The vow not to shine too brightly, not to express your unique gifts and talents fully, fearing that your brilliance would only intimidate her or make her feel inadequate. The vow not to be too joyful or too free, suppressing your own happiness and limiting your own potential in order to avoid triggering her pain or discomfort. These vows, created in innocence, with the best of intentions, became chains that bound your spirit, preventing you from fully embracing your divine potential and living the life you were always meant to live. Healing is the breaking of those chains, the conscious and courageous act of dismantling the limiting beliefs and ingrained patterns that have held you captive for far too long. I remember a pivotal moment in my own healing journey when I realized I was afraid to feel joy, not because joy was inherently unavailable or unattainable, but because joy felt like betrayal, a violation of the unspoken rules of my upbringing. I believed that rising meant abandoning the people I loved, that surpassing their limitations would somehow invalidate their struggles and diminish their sacrifices. But God whispered something that changed the trajectory of my healing forever, a profound truth that shattered the chains of guilt and self-imposed limitations. Your healing does not dishonor her. Your healing frees her legacy, transforming her pain into a source of strength, resilience, and hope for future generations. This truth is what I now speak over you, with unwavering conviction and divine authority. Becoming whole does not mean rejecting your mother, denying her experiences, or erasing her from your life. It means refusing to inherit her wounds, choosing to break free from the cycles of generational trauma, and creating a new narrative for your own life. It means choosing to be the turning point in your bloodline, the catalyst for healing and transformation that will ripple through generations to come. It means allowing God to restore what trauma rewrote, to reclaim the authentic self that has been buried beneath layers of pain, fear, and limiting beliefs. As you walk deeper into healing, as you courageously confront the wounds of the past, memories may rise and emotions may surge, not to break you, to overwhelm you, or to drag you back into the darkness, but to free you, to liberate you from the chains of the past and empower you to step into your divine potential. This is not regression, not a sign that you are failing or falling back into old patterns. This is deliverance, a sacred and transformative process of releasing the burdens you were never meant to carry. What you are feeling is the release of years of silence, restraint, and emotional labor, the accumulated weight of unspoken emotions and unfulfilled needs. It is your soul exhaling for the first time in decades, releasing the tension and constriction that has held you captive for far too long. When grief rises, as it inevitably will, it does not come to drown you, to overwhelm you, or to steal your hope. It comes to clear the space for joy, to cleanse your heart of the accumulated sorrow, and prepare you to receive Chosen One. You are here not by mere chance, but by a divine appointment, orchestrated by a force beyond understanding. This isn't a simple twist of fate. Heaven itself has meticulously aligned this very moment, because your spirit stands poised at the precipice of a supernatural shift. The wisdom you're about to receive isn't merely insight concerning your mother. It's a profound revelation, a divine key that unlocks your next level of existence, initiating profound healing, and even facilitating the transfer of divine wealth into your life. Anointed One, God is tenderly touching those often overlooked, misunderstood, or deeply buried parts of your being, parts that have remained untouched for years. This is your Kairos moment, the pivotal turning of the page in your life story. Open your heart fully. Allow your spirit to ascend, because what follows is the very genesis of your long-awaited breakthrough. Chosen One, before we journey any further, it's imperative that you grasp this truth with every fiber of your being. Absolutely nothing about your life's narrative has been random or accidental. Not the timing of events, not the depth of the pain you've endured, not the weight of the questions that have haunted you, and certainly not the manner in which you stumbled upon this message. Heaven has been gently nudging you, patiently drawing you, carefully aligning every step you've taken, leading your spirit to this precise point, at the very edge of revelation, profound healing, and divine elevation. And I speak these words as someone who has personally navigated through shadows, someone who once carried within them questions that seemed to lack a language of their own. There were countless nights when I found myself wondering why those who were meant to love me unconditionally were the very ones incapable of truly embracing me. Why affection felt like a reward to be earned rather than a gift freely offered. Why the concept of home didn't always equate to a sense of safety and security. And why allowing myself to be seen felt inherently dangerous. If this resonates deeply within you, Chosen One, then listen intently to what I'm about to say. You are not alone on this sacred path. And know this, the path you're on is indeed holy. Your healing journey doesn't commence in a place where everything neatly falls into place. Rather, it begins in the very space where things have never quite made sense. Many of us were raised by mothers who, unbeknownst to us, were carrying their own internal tempests, storms they never named or acknowledged. Women who, in many ways, were still children themselves, trapped within adult bodies, yet expected to fulfill the demanding role of parenthood. These were women who loved in fragmented ways, their capacity to nurture deeply shaped by unhealed wounds they never had the opportunity to address. And yes, they held us physically, but they weren't always able to hold the sacred space for our emotions and spiritual needs. They nourished our bodies with food, but they couldn't always satiate the deep hunger of our souls. Their love flickered and waned under the crushing weight of their own unprocessed pain. And because of this, Chosen One, you adapted. You learned to diminish your own presence, to make others around you feel more comfortable. You learned to anticipate shifts in moods before voices even began to rise. You learned to survive by being quiet, by being excessively careful, by rendering yourself virtually invisible. You learned that expressing your needs too openly meant risking far too much. So, you instinctively protected yourself in the only way a child knows how, by disappearing into the depths of your own inner world. But even then, even in those early years where love felt conditional and affection seemed so frighteningly unstable, something sacred and unbreakable remained intact within you. A spark, a divine flame that the world simply couldn't touch. A knowing, a gentle whisper, a divine imprint upon your soul. Because you were never created to merely survive on scraps of love. You were formed and fashioned by the one who is love himself. And that is precisely why the ache within you has always felt so much larger and more profound than your experiences. That is why you have always yearned for something deeper, something safer, something inherently whole. The longing that resides within you was never an indication that something was inherently wrong with you. Rather, it was evidence that something far higher and greater was beckoning you forward. Chosen one, the haunting question, "What's wrong with me?" has echoed within countless hearts for far too many years. But that question was never yours to carry. You were, in essence, asking the wrong question all along. The question was never, "What's wrong with me?" The question was, "What broke them? And why did I believe it was my responsibility to fix it?" And allow me to speak this prophetically over your life right now. You were never sent here to rescue your mother. You were divinely sent to reveal redemption. Some of the most extraordinarily powerful chosen ones on this earth were raised in environments where tenderness was a rare commodity and emotional safety was never guaranteed. This reality doesn't disqualify you in any way. Rather, it marks you. It shapes you and molds you for a unique and profound purpose. Heaven often conceals its strongest and most resilient warriors within the most unlikely of beginnings. Because when you've grown up learning how to sense imminent danger, how to accurately read emotional currents, how to soothe pain that isn't even your own, you unknowingly develop a keen sense of spiritual discernment that becomes a supernatural weapon in your hands. I've witnessed this firsthand in my own life. The very instincts that once compelled me to remain silent have now become the same instincts that God uses to teach me how to truly hear Him, how to accurately read the atmosphere of a room, how to protect others from harm, and how to see beyond the superficial surface. What the world dismisses as a mere trauma response, heaven recognizes as a rigorous training ground, and chosen one, the same holds true for you. You weren't abandoned, you were apprenticed by fire. And hear this truth. Heaven did not overlook a single one of your tears. Every silent ache, every lonely night, every moment you desperately wished she could truly see you. Heaven saw it all. Heaven meticulously recorded it. Heaven remembered. And heaven has been diligently preparing a complete and total restoration for you, long before you even realized you needed it. This is why you've always felt fundamentally different from those around you. This is why you've always carried a profound sensitivity that others simply didn't understand or appreciate. This is why you've always been drawn to healing truth and deeper meaning, because your calling was forged in the very environment that attempted to silence it. But now, Anointed One, heaven is actively shifting your story. You are stepping into a pivotal moment where the past no longer dictates or shapes your identity. Rather, it shapes your authority. The wounds that once weakened you are now becoming the very source of the wisdom that strengthens you. What was intentionally meant to break you is now becoming the very foundation upon which God builds your divine purpose. And yes, this transformative process feels undeniably uncomfortable. It often feels as though the very ground beneath your feet is shifting and unsteady. But that very feeling is the unmistakable sign that profound transformation is taking place within you. You are no longer wrestling with the ghosts of your past. You are wrestling with the version of yourself that learned to survive within it. You are being divinely invited into a higher, truer identity. One that heaven has called you into since the very beginning. And chosen one, before we delve any deeper, before we uncover the multiple layers of your intricate story and the detailed blueprint of your healing, I need you to pause and fully receive this unwavering truth. You are not here to perpetually carry the pain that raised you. You are here to transcend it completely. Now, take a deep breath and allow that truth to settle deep within your being. Because where we are about to journey next will forever alter the way you perceive your past. Chosen one, as we step deeper into this sacred journey together, I want you to understand something that most people spend their entire lives actively avoiding. Healing doesn't magically begin the moment the past ceases to hurt. Healing truly begins when you finally acknowledge and recognize how the past has relentlessly continued to speak within you, long after the actual moments themselves have ended. The loudest and most impactful wounds are rarely the ones that happened out loud. They are the ones that perpetually echo in the silence. Many chosen ones grow into adulthood falsely believing they have moved on from their past simply because they have grown older, moved out of their childhood homes, or successfully built lives of their own. But the passage of age does not silence the internalized voice of a mother who left deep wounds. The relentless passage of time does not erase deeply ingrained emotional programming. Physical distance does not put an end to patterns that were intricately written into your nervous system when you were far too young to understand the full implications of what was being done to you. And that is precisely why this particular part of your healing journey feels so profoundly sacred, intensely personal, and so excruciatingly precise. You are no longer simply confronting your mother. You are confronting the version of yourself that was profoundly shaped and molded by her own unhealed wounds. This is where healing transcends the ordinary and becomes deeply spiritual. This is where healing becomes inherently prophetic. And this is where heaven begins the deliberate process of rearranging your entire identity from the inside out. Chosen one, the undeniable truth is this. Your mother may have physically stopped speaking to you years ago, but her voice has continued to live and resonate within you. It has become the subtle whisper that cautions you not to ask for too much. It has morphed into the nagging caution that relentlessly tells you that joy is inherently unsafe. It has manifested as the oppressive pressure that compels you to diminish yourself, so that others wouldn't feel threatened or insecure. It has materialized as the deep-seated fear that urges you to remain quiet and to perpetually keep the peace at all costs. These responses were not conscious, intentional choices on your part. Rather, they were deeply ingrained survival responses, born and cultivated within a home where emotional stillness often felt exponentially safer than emotional honesty. And yet, even in those countless moments when you relentlessly silenced your own needs and desires, something within your very spirit refused to die. It remained awake. It remained constantly alert. It remained exquisitely sensitive. That profound sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the unmistakable mark of someone whom heaven has been purposefully shaping since the very beginning. You learned how to instinctively sense subtle shifts in the atmosphere. You learned how to accurately read the emotional climate of a room long before a single word was even spoken. You cultivated discernment long before you even knew there was a word for it. What felt like paralyzing fear back then is now evolving into profound spiritual intuition. What felt like overwhelming hypervigilance back then is now transforming into prophetic sight. This is why your calling feels so heavy and significant. This is why your emotions run so deeply. This is why your empathy seems so much stronger than those around you. You weren't simply being too emotional. You were being spiritually wired in a unique way. You were being carefully trained in ways that you didn't fully understand at the time. And now, heaven is taking what once felt like an unbearable burden and transforming it into a supernatural ability. But before you can fully rise into that higher identity, you must first confront the internal vows that have kept you inextricably tied to an old version of yourself. Every chosen one eventually discovers these hidden vows, the silent, unspoken agreements made in childhood. Agreements like, I won't allow myself to be happier than she was. I won't outgrow the painful story she remained trapped in. If I shine too brightly, she will inevitably feel small and insignificant. If I become whole, I will be abandoning her and leaving her behind. If I heal, it will only serve to expose her deepest wounds. Chosen one, these subconscious agreements were never born out of genuine love. They were born out of a deeply ingrained need for survival. And mere survival is not your ultimate destiny. There was a specific season in my own life when I was genuinely afraid of experiencing joy. Not because joy was unavailable to me, but because joy felt inherently dangerous, like stepping outside of a carefully defined boundary that had been etched into my very soul. I had unknowingly come to believe that rising above the pain of my upbringing somehow meant abandoning the very people who had shaped me. So I instinctively dimmed my own light. I deliberately kept myself half present, half alive. And in one of the quietest moments of prayer, God whispered something to me that completely dismantled years of emotional bondage. Your joy does not dishonor them. Your joy redeems them. Those transformative words broke something wide open within me. They shattered the lie that becoming more was somehow a betrayal. They demolished the insidious lie that healing inevitably created distance. They annihilated the falsehood that freedom was synonymous with disloyalty. And chosen one, I speak this over you now with the same divine authority. You were never meant to simply repeat your mother's painful story. You were divinely meant to transcend it completely. Your healing does not erase her existence. Your healing elevates her. Your healing accomplishes what she was unable to finish herself. Your healing brings an end to what she could not break free from. Your healing becomes the redemption that your entire bloodline has been desperately waiting for. The enemy wants you to believe that becoming whole somehow makes you ungrateful, but heaven declares the very opposite to be true. Becoming whole is how you truly honor those who bravely came before you. You are not here to live as a restrained and diminished version of yourself, simply to protect the fragile memory of someone who never learned how to be truly free. You are here to fully embody the freedom that they never had the tools or resources to reach. And this is where the divine shift begins to take place. When you stop viewing yourself as a mere extension of your mother's pain and begin to see yourself as an extension of God's profound promise, everything in your life begins to change. Your identity transforms. Your emotions shift. Your expectations evolve. Your vision becomes crystal clear. Suddenly, the limitations you once passively accepted begin to feel foreign and unnatural. The guilt you've carried for so long begins to fall away. The silence you once used as a means of protection no longer fits the person you are actively becoming. Chosen one, this is your turning point. This is where the relentless internal war begins to lose its power. This is where heaven starts to rewrite the script of your life from the inside out. This is where you stop living to avoid someone else's disappointment and start living to fully fulfill God's unique assignment for your life. Take a deep breath now. Allow this transformative truth to settle into the deepest parts of your being. You are not destined to become your mother. You are becoming who God always intended you to be. Chosen one, healing becomes truly transformative the moment you fully understand that the wounds you carry are no longer simply isolated memories from childhood. They have become deeply ingrained internal architectures, profoundly shaping how you think, feel, and move throughout the world. What once happened around you has now been actively happening inside you for years. And this is where the real work of healing truly begins, not merely at the superficial surface level of your story, but at the deepest, most hidden roots. For many who grew up under the pervasive shadow of a mother deeply wounded by her own history, the emotional inheritance passed down was not one of tenderness and nurturing, but one of tension and constant unease. Not one of safety and security, but one of mere survival. A child intuitively absorbs what a mother never learned how to name or articulate. You absorbed her silence. You absorbed her fear. You absorbed her shame. And in the process, you unknowingly began building an inner world that was designed not for truly living, but simply for enduring. But chosen one, the identity that helped you to merely endure is not the identity that will help you to rise. This is the sacred dilemma faced by every soul uniquely marked by heaven, yet profoundly shaped by human imperfection. You were born into a story that you did not choose. You were raised under emotional weather patterns that you could not possibly control and trained in automatic reactions that were never meant to become your permanent nature. Yet, for years, the voice you heard inside you did not truly belong to you. It belonged to the deeply ingrained patterns you inherited. It is the subtle voice that whispers, "Don't ask for anything." The insidious voice that warns you that joy is unsafe. The persistent voice that insists, "Do not outshine her." The crippling voice that fears that if you thrive, you will inevitably lose love. That voice is not the voice of the Holy Spirit. It is merely the lingering residue of survival mode. And survival, though once absolutely necessary, eventually becomes suffocating when your spirit is ready to ascend to new heights. Healing at this profound level demands raw honesty, not necessarily about your mother, but more importantly, about yourself. About the calculated ways you learned to disappear in order to prevent her from feeling overwhelmed. About the inherent joy you dimmed, so that she wouldn't feel small or inadequate. About the dreams you deliberately delayed, because you genuinely believed that pursuing them would somehow distance you from her. About the deep sense of worthiness you relentlessly questioned, because she was unable to affirm in you what she had never personally received. This is the unseen and often unacknowledged cost of a childhood profoundly shaped by unhealed mothers, the lingering and persistent belief that love must be earned, deserved, or meticulously negotiated. But here is the undeniable truth that heaven is actively speaking to you now. You did not become your mother. Rather, you became the child who learned how to survive her pain. And now, God is lovingly inviting you to become something entirely different, the healed and whole adult she never had the opportunity to become. This is the precise moment where healing shifts from mere emotional reflection to profound spiritual transformation. God begins to dismantle the automatic reflexes you mistakenly believed were simply your personality traits. He exposes the hidden fear you mistook for humility, the oppressive silence you confused with inner peace, the crippling guilt you mistakenly associated with loyalty. He lovingly coaxes the younger version of you to loosen her grip and allow your spirit to fully lead the way. I distinctly remember experiencing this profound shift in my own life. There was a specific moment, subtle yet undeniably impactful, when I realized that I was, in fact, afraid of experiencing genuine joy. Not because joy was unavailable to me, but because joy felt disloyal, almost dangerous, as if exceeding the emotional ceiling of my upbringing would somehow betray the very people who had raised me. It took me several years to fully grasp this fundamental truth. We often remain only half-healed out of misplaced respect for the very people who loved us only to the limited level of their own capacity. And in that quiet moment of heartfelt prayer, God whispered something profound that broke a heavy chain within me. Your joy does not dishonor her. Your joy redeems her. Chosen one, your mother's unfinished story is not yours to finish by remaining small. Your healing does not erase her. It elevates her. Your personal growth does not betray her. It breaks what broke her in the first place. Your freedom does not abandon her. It completes what she never had the strength to complete herself. This is precisely why the emotional tug-of-war inside you has felt so overwhelmingly intense. You are being fiercely pulled between two distinct worlds, the world you were born into and the world you are being divinely called to build. The wounded child within you desperately wants to protect her, while the strong adult in you yearns to rise above. And God is calling you to do both, in the only way that truly honors her legacy, by steadfastly refusing to repeat her pain. Every chosen one eventually reaches a critical turning point where they must make a conscious choice. Will I continue to carry the crushing weight of her wounds, or will I faithfully carry the divine promise that God has specifically placed upon my life? This decisive choice is not about judgment or condemnation. It is about the ultimate liberation for both of you. Because when you heal, you are not merely healing from your mother. You are healing for your mother. You become the radiant life that her pain could not produce. You become the clarity that her confusion could not reach. You become the profound wholeness that her brokenness could not find. You become the answered prayer she never even knew how to pray. And the very moment you fully embrace this transformative truth, the shame that has relentlessly followed you begins to loosen its grip. The crippling guilt that has relentlessly stalked your joy begins to weaken. The oppressive voice that demanded you remain small begins to fade into the background. And in its place rises a steadier, gentler, quieter, and yet utterly unmistakable voice. The voice of your loving Creator, reminding you that you were always meant to rise and shine. Chosen one, healing is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about reconnecting with and becoming who you authentically were before the world touched you and attempted to reshape you. And you are beginning to remember, chosen one. There comes a specific moment in every profound healing journey when the past stops appearing as a distant and fading memory and begins to rise within you as a quiet, yet undeniable weight. It is in this pivotal moment that the entire process of healing shifts from mere intellectual understanding into active release, from simply recalling events into complete surrender, and from solely surviving into profound transformation. Many chosen ones begin to realize that the heavy burdens they have been carrying for years were never actually theirs to hold in the first place. You carried your mother's volatile emotions, her stifling silence, her overwhelming sorrow, and her internal storms as if they rightfully belonged to you. And for a significantly long time, you genuinely believed that this was love. But this particular moment marks the dawning of clarity, the profound understanding that what once effectively protected you is now precisely what urgently needs to be undone. For so long, you were unknowingly shaped by roles you never actively chose. You became the ever-present peacekeeper, the skilled emotional interpreter, the invisible stabilizer of a home that demanded far more from you than any child should ever be expected to give. You learned to meticulously monitor moods before words were even spoken, to deliberately silence yourself so that others would not become louder or more agitated, and to deliberately dim your own radiant light so that her shadows would not grow any larger. You lived in a constant state of heightened emotional awareness, falsely believing that if you could only be perfect enough, quiet enough, or exceptionally helpful enough, you could somehow finally earn the unwavering love you never fully received. But healing now gently asks you to carefully examine these deeply ingrained patterns, not with judgment or blame, but with the unwavering lens of truth. You were never meant to become your mother's shield, her constant comfort, or her unspoken remedy. You were divinely meant to simply be her child. And this profound truth, as painful as it may initially feel, becomes the very doorway into genuine emotional liberation. When you finally realize that love never actually required you to disappear or to diminish your own essence, something powerful within you finally awakens. The crippling guilt you carried for even wanting to experience happiness begins to loosen its suffocating grip. The deep-seated fear of becoming more than she was starts to dissolve. You begin to clearly see that shrinking yourself was not an act of devotion. It was simply an act of survival. And God is now lovingly calling you out of survival mode and into your true identity. This shift is undeniably uncomfortable, because for the first time, you must courageously confront the deeply rooted emotional vows you unconsciously formed in childhood. The secret vow not to outgrow her, the hidden vow not to shine too brightly, the unspoken vow not to be too joyful or too free. These vows, created in innocence, have unwittingly become the chains that have bound your spirit. True healing is the courageous breaking of those chains. I vividly remember a transformative moment in my own journey when I realized that I was genuinely afraid to feel joy, simply because joy felt like a betrayal. I secretly believed that rising above my circumstances meant abandoning the very people I deeply loved. But God lovingly whispered something to me that forever changed the trajectory of my healing. Your healing does not dishonor her. Your healing frees her legacy. This profound truth is what I now boldly speak over your life. Becoming whole does not mean rejecting your mother. It means resolutely refusing to inherit her wounds. It means consciously choosing to be the turning point in your bloodline. It means courageously allowing God to completely restore what trauma rewrote. As you walk deeper into the healing process, long-forgotten memories may rise to the surface and intense emotions may surge within you, not to break you, but to ultimately set you free. This is not regression. This is true deliverance. What you are presently feeling is the culmination of years of deeply ingrained silence, relentless restraint, and quiet emotional labor. It is your very soul exhaling fully for the first time in decades. When grief rises to meet you, it does not come to drown you. It comes to lovingly clear the sacred space for unbounded joy. When sorrow surfaces, it does not come to steal your inner peace. It comes to gently return the long-abandoned parts of yourself. This is the holy unraveling, the sacred work of God, deliberately pulling you out of what never rightfully belonged to you. And in this profound unraveling, you will joyfully meet a version of yourself you have not seen or recognized in years. A you who breathes deeply without fear. A you who speaks confidently without trembling. A you who shines radiantly without apology. And a you who no longer mistakes emotional exhaustion for genuine love. This version of you is not some new creation. This is the authentic you that existed before the relentless forces of survival attempted to reshape you. This is the true you that God always intended to restore. Chosen one, this is the defining moment where you boldly declare, "This ends with me." Not in bitterness or resentment, but in profound wisdom. Not in rebellion or defiance, but in glorious resurrection. Not in rejection or abandonment, but in divine revelation. Your healing becomes the definitive turning point in your lineage. Your wholeness becomes the very prayer your ancestors never knew how to pray. Your freedom becomes undeniable evidence that God has purposefully placed a powerful mantle upon your life. A mantle to break destructive cycles, not to mindlessly continue them. You are absolutely allowed to rise beyond your mother's self-imposed emotional ceiling. You are completely allowed to experience unbounded joy without any feelings of guilt. You are absolutely allowed to build a peaceful and fulfilling life, even if she never found her own. You are absolutely allowed to step into a profound sense of wholeness that she could not reach. Your healing is not a betrayal. Your healing is the ultimate redemption of your entire bloodline. And now, as this profound truth anchors deeper and deeper into your spirit, Your sacred journey begins to shift from merely undoing the burdens of the past to actively becoming the architect of the future. There comes a defining moment, chosen one, when the very atmosphere surrounding your life begins to shift in ways you can no longer possibly ignore. It is initially subtle, almost like a soft and gentle internal pull, a quiet invitation to deeply listen, to breathe fully, and to intentionally slow down. But then it gradually grows stronger, until the message becomes undeniably clear. Heaven is lovingly guiding you away from the incessant noise. Every part of your very being begins to consciously withdraw from what once felt so familiar and comfortable. The conversations that once readily entertained you now begin to feel surprisingly shallow and unfulfilling. The environments that once energized you now leave you inexplicably drained in ways you cannot fully explain. You may initially try to shake it off and to keep up with your old routines, but something deep within your spirit whispers, "Not here. Not anymore." This is not simply emotional burnout. This is deliberate spiritual relocation. It is the very beginning of a divine separation, masterfully orchestrated not by your limited logic, but by your boundless destiny. What you might mistakenly call discomfort is actually alignment. What you might perceive as confusion is actually profound clarity rising within you. Your body and spirit are simply and beautifully adjusting to a higher frequency. The separation can feel foreign, even agonizing at times, chosen one. It demands you release versions of yourself you fought tooth and nail to build. But the truth, often a bitter pill, is that you've transcended the life built on mere survival. You're on the cusp of the life designed with profound purpose. In this pivotal season, relationships will subtly, irrevocably shift. People who once held your deepest confidences may now seem distant, shrouded in mist. Those who once intuitively understood you may now struggle to grasp your silence, your sudden, urgent need for space. But mistake this not for rejection, a harsh casting aside. This is refinement, a meticulous shaping. Heaven is pruning your connections, not to isolate you in a lonely wilderness, but to safeguard the seed of greatness nestled within you. What the divine has planted in you cannot be mishandled, cannot be left to wither. Even your hesitation to explain yourself, to offer justifications, is divinely inspired. Not everyone possesses the capacity to interpret your evolution, and frankly, not everyone deserves to. Growth, to those who remain stagnant, often appears as a retreat, a falling back. Chosen one, you may feel the deep ache of separation, the slow, agonizing unraveling of the familiar, the piercing grief of letting go. But hold fast, for this grief is sacred. It is the grief that accompanies profound transformation, not the emptiness of mere loss. It is the feeling of your spirit shedding old layers, outworn patterns, and limiting attachments that can no longer coexist with your higher calling. You are not moving away from people out of arrogance or pride. You are moving toward destiny, driven by obedience to a force greater than yourself. Those who will walk with you in this next chapter must be aligned in spirit, vibrating on the same frequency, not merely connected by threads of shared history. As you follow the pull inward, delving into the depths of your soul, your inner world will grow louder, demanding attention. You'll begin to hear thoughts you once ignored, desires you once buried deep, truths you once silenced for the sake of a fragile, fleeting peace. Suddenly, your own voice, clear and strong, becomes a revelation. You realize the immense portion of yourself you withheld, simply to maintain relationships that were never destined to survive your ascent. The separation will sting, yes, but the clarity it births is priceless, beyond measure. You begin to discern who was truly connected to your soul, resonating with your very essence, and who was merely connected to your presence, drawn to your light but not your core. And slowly, agonizingly, the fear of being alone transforms into the exquisite beauty of being aligned, truly seen, truly known. Your home, both physical and spiritual, becomes your sanctuary once more. Your breath becomes your prayer, a constant communion with the divine. Your thoughts become your offering, a tapestry woven with intention and love. In quiet, sacred places, you begin to encounter the version of yourself you've long prayed for. The version no longer shaped by the expectations of others, but by the unwavering intention of the divine. The version that doesn't need to shrink, to diminish its light, to fit into rooms that were always too small for your expansive spirit. The version that carries a profound peace, so deeply rooted that chaos can no longer enter unnoticed, uninvited. Chosen one. Everything around you is being meticulously rearranged, reshaped, so that your inner world can rise, can flourish. This shift is not random, not a capricious act of fate. It is preparation for a divine assignment, a sacred mission that demands unwavering focus, acute sensitivity, and a purity of spirit. Heaven cannot position you publicly, cannot thrust you into the spotlight until you are stabilized privately, until your foundations are firm. And stability comes through silence, through surrender, through the deliberate act of separation. That is why the divine is pulling you back, gently but firmly, not to hide you away, to bury your talents, but to shape you, to mold you without interference, without the clamor of the outside world. You are being rebuilt from the inside out, brick by painstaking brick. There will be moments when your heart aches for what you left behind, for the familiar comfort of the past. Moments when memories resurface with warmth, a siren song of what once was, and moments when solitude feels heavier than expected, a crushing weight. But even in those moments of vulnerability, something deeper will hold you, a knowing that transcends understanding, a certainty that you are being guided. The hand of the divine is on your shoulder, steady and unwavering, a constant source of strength. Your spirit knows what your emotions cannot yet articulate, cannot yet put into words. What you are becoming requires this distance, this sacred space to unfold. In this solitude, you will notice the emergence of a new kind of strength, unlike anything you've known before. Not the strength that pushes through exhaustion, that forces itself to be okay, but the strength that comes from stillness, from quiet contemplation. The strength that comes from allowing the divine to speak first, to guide your steps. The strength that comes from no longer rushing the process, from trusting the unfolding. You are learning how to honor divine timing, to align yourself with the rhythm of the cosmos. Instead of chasing human deadlines, driven by anxiety and fear, you are learning how to love yourself without losing yourself in the process, how to nurture your soul without sacrificing your authenticity. You are learning that peace is not passive, not a state of inaction. It is prophetic, a harbinger of things to come. And as the days pass, you will begin to see glimpses of the new path forming beneath your feet, shimmering with possibility. Subtle alignments, unexpected confirmations, a profound shift in your desires, a newfound capacity to hear the whispers of your soul, a sharpened sensitivity to what drains you and what nourishes you. These are signs that the separation is working, that the process is unfolding as it should. You are becoming spiritually lighter, shedding unnecessary burdens, so that you can carry something heavier, something more meaningful, something sacred. Chosen one. You are not walking away from life. You are walking toward your true assignment, your divine purpose. The separation is not a detour, a frustrating delay. It is the doorway, the portal to your destiny. And though the path may feel narrow, winding, it is filled with glory, radiant and breathtaking. You are being prepared to step into spaces your old self could not even dream of entering. You are being ready to speak words your old voice could not hold, truths that were too powerful for your past self. You are being refined like precious metal to carry a mantle your old identity could not support. Take heart, dear one. This separation is not your ending. It is not a period but a comma. It is your becoming, your metamorphosis into the person you were always meant to be. And what waits on the other side is nothing less than the life heaven ordained for you long before your first breath. The life that is uniquely and perfectly yours. Chosen one. There comes a point in your healing journey when the battlefield shifts, when the external struggles fade into the background and the real war begins within. The battlefield is no longer the environment you grew up in, the people who wounded you, but the landscape of your own mind, the terrain of your thoughts and beliefs. The old voices, the lingering fears, the inherited patterns, they don't simply vanish because you have grown older, wiser. They linger like shadows, appearing in moments when your guard is down, whispering stories that no longer belong to you, narratives of limitation and pain. And yet, something deep inside you knows that those stories are losing their power, that their grip is weakening. Something inside you knows the war is shifting because you are shifting, because you are no longer the same person you once were. Healing is no longer an abstract idea, a distant dream. It is becoming the very way you breathe, the way you choose to respond to the world, the way you rise each morning. As you walk deeper into this transformation, you begin to notice how differently you respond to the world, how your reactions are changing. The triggers that once sent you spiraling into chaos now feel like echoes, distant reverberations that you can observe without falling into their depths. The wounds that once dictated your relationships, shaping your every interaction, now feel like reminders of how far you've come, of the strength you've cultivated. This is the hidden evidence of your internal resurrection, the undeniable proof that you are transforming from the inside out. You are not who you used to be. The world may not see it immediately, may not recognize the changes within you, but heaven does. The spiritual realm responds to every quiet step you take toward freedom, every boundary you set with love and conviction, every moment you choose peace over chaos, hope over despair. These choices become declarations, proclamations of your worth. I am not who pain tried to make me. I belong to purpose. I am destined for greatness. But chosen one, there is another layer to this healing, a crucial aspect, one that many often overlook. Healing requires confronting not only what was done to you, the injustices you suffered, but also what you learned to do to yourself in order to survive, the coping mechanisms you developed in the face of adversity. You learned to silence your needs, to push them down, to pretend they didn't exist. You learned to shrink your presence, to make yourself smaller, less visible, to avoid drawing attention. You learned to apologize for existing, for taking up space in the world. These habits take time to undo, to unlearn, because they were formed in environments where protection meant invisibility, where safety lay in obscurity. Now, as the divine expands you, as your light begins to shine brighter, invisibility becomes a barrier instead of a shield, a hindrance to your growth. Your light is no longer optional. It is essential, needed in the world. Your voice is no longer negotiable. It is powerful, capable of inspiring change. Your worth is no longer conditional. It is inherent, undeniable, a gift from the divine. And learning to believe that, to truly embody those truths, requires patience with the parts of you that are still afraid, the wounded inner child who still seeks safety in the shadows. There will be days when you feel strong enough to rewrite your entire story, to cast off the old narratives and embrace your true potential, and days when the weight of old patterns feels heavier than usual, dragging you down. Both days are holy, both days are sacred. Both days are part of the unfolding, part of the journey towards wholeness. Healing is not linear. It is not a straight path from brokenness to perfection. It is layered, like the rings of a tree, each layer representing a different stage of growth. It is cyclical, ebbing and flowing like the tides, with moments of clarity and moments of confusion. It is sacred, a testament to your resilience and your unwavering spirit. You are peeling back years of emotional sediment, layers of pain and trauma that were never yours to carry, burdens that you inherited from those who came before you. You are releasing narratives that were written by broken people trying to survive their own storms, stories of limitation and fear that have no place in your life. This shedding is not a sign of weakness. It is not a failure. It is proof that your spirit refuses to remain trapped in outdated identities, that your soul is yearning for freedom. Chosen one, as this healing deepens, you will also notice an unexpected shift, a profound sense of gratitude. Not gratitude for the pain itself, not a celebration of suffering, but gratitude for the clarity it produced, the lessons it taught, the strength it revealed. Gratitude for the strength you never knew you had, the resilience that carried you through the darkest of times. Gratitude for the depth of empathy that now allows you to see others with spiritual eyes, to understand their struggles and offer compassion without judgment. Gratitude for the compassion that flows from you like a quiet river, healing others simply by your presence, by the light that emanates from your being. Pain did not make you bitter, hardened, cynical. It made you expansive, open-hearted, capable of embracing the fullness of life. It made you capable of carrying a level of love that could not have been formed in comfort, a love that is both fierce and tender, unwavering and compassionate. It made you someone heaven can trust, someone who can be entrusted with great responsibility, someone who can make a profound difference in the world. As this gratitude grows, so does your capacity for surrender, your ability to let go of what no longer serves you. You begin to release the need for explanations, for apologies, for closure. You begin to accept that not all wounds are meant to be justified by the one who caused them, that not everyone will acknowledge the pain they inflicted. Some wounds are meant to be redeemed by the one who heals them, transformed into sources of strength and wisdom. Surrender becomes your new strength, your superpower. You stop forcing relationships that drain you, that leave you feeling depleted and empty. You stop chasing validation that was never yours to earn, approval that will never come. You stop negotiating your worth with people who cannot see you clearly, who are blinded by their own limitations and insecurities. Instead, you align yourself with what is true, with what resonates with your soul. What is divine, with the essence of creation, what is eternal, with the timeless wisdom that resides within you. And in that alignment, something powerful begins to happen, a shift in the very fabric of your being. Your life starts to harmonize with heaven's rhythm, flowing with grace and ease. Suddenly, opportunities that once felt out of reach begin to approach you, drawn to your light. Peace becomes more natural than anxiety, a state of being rather than a fleeting moment. Love becomes safer than fear, a source of strength rather than a vulnerability. Purpose becomes louder than pain, the driving force in your life. You begin to feel a supernatural ease surrounding your steps, a sense of flow and alignment, like the weight you carried for years has finally been lifted, freeing you to soar. This ease is not accidental. It is not a stroke of luck. It is the result of internal alignment, the byproduct of your unwavering commitment to healing and growth. It is the result of your willingness to confront, release, and rise, to face your shadows and embrace your light. It is evidence that heaven rewards every courageous step taken in faith, every act of self-love, every choice made in alignment with your soul. Chosen one, this season of healing is not simply about repairing your past, about mending broken pieces. It is about preparing your future, about building a foundation for a life of purpose and fulfillment. You are being shaped into someone who can walk with authority, radiating confidence and conviction, compassion, extending kindness and understanding to all, and clarity, seeing the world with wisdom and discernment. Someone who can break generational patterns simply by choosing differently, by refusing to perpetuate the cycles of pain and trauma. Someone who carries a mantle of restoration that will echo beyond your lifetime, healing not only themselves but also future generations. You are becoming the healed ancestor your lineage never had, the one who breaks the chains of the past and sets their descendants free. You are becoming the answered prayer your bloodline did not know how to pray, the one who brings forth a new era of healing and abundance. And though the journey is not done, though there are still miles to travel, you are further than you have ever been. Heaven is proud of you, celebrating your progress and cheering you on. God is walking with you, every step of the way, and your spirit is awakening into the fullness of who you were always meant to be, embracing your true potential and shining your light for all the world to see. Chosen one. As your healing deepens, you begin to notice something you never expected, a subtle but profound shift in your surroundings. The world around you starts responding to the transformation happening within you, mirroring your inner growth. Places that once felt familiar, comfortable, suddenly feel foreign, out of sync with your evolving energy. Conversations you once engaged in with enthusiasm now feel empty, lacking substance and depth. Even the people you love begin to sense the shift, though they may not understand it, feeling the distance growing between you. This is the quiet evidence that your spirit is rising, that the frequency of your life is changing, and that heaven is preparing to usher you into a realm where wounded patterns can no longer follow, where you are surrounded by those who support and uplift you. In this stage of healing, the most profound changes happen in the unseen, in the depths of your soul. Your mindset begins to expand, embracing new possibilities and beliefs. Your inner dialogue becomes gentler, kinder, more compassionate. You start catching yourself before you fall back into old emotional reflexes, before you react in ways that no longer serve you. You pause before reacting, taking a moment to breathe and center yourself. You breathe before assuming, giving others the benefit of the doubt. You give yourself compassion before criticism, treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend. These subtle changes are not small. They are not insignificant. They are signs of mastery, evidence of your growing self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Signs that your spirit is taking the lead, guiding you towards your true purpose. Where the wounded child once ruled, driven by fear and insecurity. Signs that the generational patterns attempting to cling to you are losing their authority, their grip weakening with each conscious choice you make. And yet, chosen one, with every step into this new version of yourself, there is a tension you must learn to navigate, a delicate balance you must maintain. The space between who you used to be and who you are becoming, the liminal space where transformation takes place. This space is sacred, a place of profound potential, but it can also be uncomfortable, disorienting. You are no longer satisfied with old habits, with patterns of behavior that no longer resonate with your soul, but you have not fully settled into your new identity either. You are still finding your way. You are shedding the old skin, the outdated version of yourself, but the new skin is still forming, still tender and vulnerable. This in-between is where the real spiritual work happens, where you are tested and refined. This is where you learn to trust God without clarity, to surrender to the unknown without needing to see the whole picture, to walk without confirmation, to follow your intuition even when others doubt you, and to surrender without knowing what comes next, trusting that you are being guided towards your highest good. It is in this tension that heaven begins to strengthen you, building your resilience and fortifying your spirit. The more you lean into growth, the more your spiritual senses sharpen, the more attuned you become to the subtle energies around you. You start seeing people as they truly are, beyond their words and into their intentions, discerning the truth behind their masks. You sense spiritual atmospheres before you step into a room, feeling the energy of a place before you even enter. You discern hidden motives without needing explanations, trusting your intuition to guide you. This is not paranoia, not a sign of distrust. This is discernment awakening, a gift from the divine. This is heaven equipping you so that your next season is not sabotaged by familiar spirits wearing familiar faces, so that you are protected from those who would seek to harm or hinder you. Chosen one, this is also the season where you begin reclaiming your emotional authority, taking ownership of your feelings and reactions. For so long, your mother's wounds, her fears, her survival patterns shaped how you navigated the world, influencing your choices and limiting your potential. But now you are choosing to rewrite the script, to break free from the chains of the past. You are choosing to feel without being overwhelmed, to embrace your emotions without letting them control you, to love without losing yourself, to give freely without sacrificing your own needs, and to stand without apologizing, to assert your boundaries with confidence and grace. You are learning that strength can be soft, that vulnerability is not weakness, but a source of power, and that softness can be strong, that compassion and kindness can be just as effective as force and aggression. You are learning that healing is not about replacing pain with perfection, about erasing the past and pretending it never happened, but about replacing fear with truth, about embracing your imperfections and accepting yourself as you are. And here in this unfolding, you will begin to sense a new kind of courage rising within you, a quiet strength that anchors you to your soul, a courage that does not roar but rests, that does not need to prove itself to anyone, a courage that does not demand but knows, that trusts in the power of the divine, a courage that anchors you when old wounds attempt to rise, reminding you, I am not who I was. I am becoming who I was always meant to be. This courage becomes your shield, protecting you from harm, your compass, guiding you on your path, your inner witness that the transformation is real, that you are truly healing and growing. As this courage stabilizes, as it becomes a constant presence in your life, something deeper happens, a profound shift in your self-perception. You begin to bless yourself, to acknowledge your worth and celebrate your accomplishments. You begin to validate your own journey, recognizing the strength and resilience it has taken to get here. You begin to honor your own heart, listening to its wisdom and following its guidance. You stop waiting for permission to heal, for someone else to give you the green light. You stop waiting for someone else to acknowledge your growth, for external validation. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come, releasing the expectation that others will take responsibility for their actions. Instead, you become your own confirmation, your own source of validation. You become your own turning point, the catalyst for change in your life. You become the living proof that healing is possible, that transformation is within reach. Chosen one, you are not just healing from your mother's wounds, from the pain of your past. You are healing forward, creating a better future for yourself and generations to come. Healing outward, radiating love and compassion to those around you. Healing upward, connecting with the divine and ascending to your highest potential. You are becoming the healed ancestor, the one who breaks the chains of the past and sets their descendants free. You are becoming the generational interruption, the one who stops the cycles of pain and trauma. You're becoming the one heaven trusts to rewrite the legacy, to create a new narrative of healing and abundance. And this rising is only the beginning, the first step on a path of infinite possibilities. Chosen one. As you continue stepping into this deeper layer of healing, something profound begins awakening inside you. A revelation that will change the way you see yourself and the world around you. A clarity that feels both ancient, resonating with the wisdom of the ages, and newly born, fresh and invigorating. You start recognizing that none of your pain was purposeless, that every experience, even the most difficult, has served a higher purpose. The wounds that once felt random, meaningless, now reveal themselves as thresholds, gateways to greater understanding and compassion. The silence that shaped you was not abandonment, not a sign of neglect, but initiation, a period of solitude and reflection that allowed you to connect with your inner voice. And every moment you spent searching for love, yearning for connection, was preparing you to recognize the love that doesn't fail, the unwavering love of the divine. Your story begins to make spiritual sense, weaving together the threads of your life into a tapestry of meaning. Not because it was easy, not because you avoided challenges, but because heaven has been weaving redemption through every fragile thread, transforming your pain into purpose. In this unfolding, you begin to understand that healing is not simply recovering from what happened, about erasing the past and pretending it never happened. It is remembering who you were before the pain tried to redefine you, before the world tried to tell you who you should be. It is the sacred act of returning to the self, reclaiming your true identity. God always intended the self buried under years of survival silence and emotional inheritance, the self that is whole, complete, and divinely loved. And as this remembrance rises, as you reconnect with your authentic self, you feel an inner widening, a spiritual expansion that signals you are stepping into the life you were always meant to live, embracing your full potential and shining your light for all the world to see. You start realizing that you were never meant to fit into the emotional patterns you were raised in, that you were never meant to replicate the cycles of pain and trauma. You were meant to transform them, to break free from the limitations of the past and create a new future. Anointed one, your emotional landscape shifts in ways that surprise you. As you embrace new perspectives and beliefs, you notice that the places where you once felt fragile, vulnerable, now feel strengthened by understanding, empowered by your newfound wisdom. The memories that once overwhelmed you, consuming your thoughts and emotions, no longer hold the same power, their grip loosening with each step you take towards healing. You can acknowledge them without collapsing under them, without letting them define you. And perhaps most sacred, compassion begins to rise inside you, not the kind that costs your peace, that sacrifices your own well-being, but the kind that comes from freedom, from a place of wholeness and self-acceptance. You look at your mother not through the lens of blame, not holding her responsible for your pain, but through the lens of truth, seeing her with clarity and understanding. You see her humanity, her wounds, her limitations, recognizing that she too was a product of her own experiences. And instead of mirroring her pain, of perpetuating the cycles of trauma, you begin breaking free from it, choosing a different path. This is where forgiveness transforms from obligation into liberation, freeing you from the chains of resentment and bitterness. Forgiveness does not dismiss what happened, does not minimize your pain or excuse the actions of others, nor does it pretend that your hurt did not matter, denying your own experience. Instead, it releases you from carrying what your spirit was never meant to hold, freeing you to move forward without the weight of the past. You stop rehearsing the scenes of your past, dwelling on the pain and injustice. Not because they don't matter, not because you are trying to forget, but because you finally matter more, because your own healing and well-being are your top priority. Healing becomes the act of choosing yourself after years of abandoning yourself for others, of prioritizing your own needs and desires. Chosen one. As this deeper freedom forms within you, as you embrace your authentic self, a new strength begins to anchor your spirit, providing stability and resilience. You find yourself discerning differently, trusting your intuition and making choices that align with your values, choosing environments that protect your peace, creating a sanctuary around you, conversations that nourish your heart, engaging in discussions that are meaningful and uplifting, and relationships that honor your growth, surrounding yourself with people who support and celebrate you. You begin to trust the voice of God within you more than the echoes of trauma behind you, relying on your inner guidance rather than the limiting beliefs of the past. You say no without guilt, setting boundaries that protect your energy and well-being. You rest without fear, knowing that you are worthy of rest and rejuvenation. You set boundaries without apology, asserting your needs with confidence and grace. This is not rebellion, not an act of defiance. This is resurrection, the rising of your true self, reclaiming your power and potential. And as your identity stabilizes, as you embrace your authentic self, heaven responds, aligning the universe to support your journey. New connections emerge, bringing new opportunities and experiences into your life. New clarity rises, guiding you towards your purpose. New opportunities open as though creation itself has been waiting for you to become this version of you, eager to assist you in fulfilling your destiny. Doors you once knocked on now open effortlessly because you are no longer approaching them from survival, from a place of need and desperation, but from strength, confidence, and self-assurance. Every step you take confirms that your healing is aligning you with destiny, that you are on the right path. Finally, Anointed One hope rises steady, mature, unwavering, a beacon of light in your soul. Not the fragile hope of a child wishing for rescue, a naive belief in a fairy tale ending, but the grounded hope of a healed soul stepping into purpose, a deep knowing that you are capable of creating a beautiful future. Hope that assures you your future will not resemble your past, that you are not doomed to repeat the patterns of your ancestors. Hope that whispers you were meant for joy, for peace, for wholeness, that you are worthy of a life filled with love and abundance. Hope that declares your story is shifting from wounds to wisdom, that you are transforming your pain into a source of strength and inspiration. This hope is the sign your healing is becoming your calling, that you are ready to share your gifts with the world. Chosen one, as we come to the close of this message, pause and feel the truth settling into your spirit, allowing these words to resonate within your soul. You have not been walking through this healing alone, you have been supported every step of the way. Heaven clears throat, has been guiding you, shaping you, and preparing you for a season your past could never have imagined, a future beyond your wildest dreams. What you faced did not diminish you, did not break your spirit. It refined you, transforming you into a stronger, wiser, more compassionate being. And now you stand in your Kairos moment, the exact divinely appointed time where old wounds lose their power and a supernatural transfer begins to unfold within your life, activating your gifts and aligning you with your destiny. Anointed One, you are stepping into a realm where emotional freedom becomes spiritual authority, where you are empowered to lead and inspire others, where clarity becomes protection, shielding you from harm and guiding you towards the truth, where wholeness becomes your inheritance, claiming your birthright of joy, peace, and abundance. Heaven is not simply restoring what was taken from you, returning what you lost. Heaven is multiplying what you carry, amplifying your gifts and talents. This is the moment where your lineage shifts, where the cycles of pain and trauma are broken, where grace rewrites what trauma once claimed, where you reclaim your power and potential, where you rise not as the wounded child, carrying the burdens of the past, but as the healed vessel God always intended you to be, a beacon of light and hope for all the world to see. So walk forward gently, with kindness and compassion, but walk forward boldly, with confidence and conviction. Guard your heart, protecting your energy and setting healthy boundaries. Honor your boundaries, respecting your own needs and desires, and stay aligned with the voice that has carried you this far, trusting your intuition and following your inner guidance. The same God who saw every tear, who witnessed every struggle, is now opening doors no pain can close, leading you towards your destiny. Trust the timing, knowing that everything is unfolding according to divine plan. Trust the unfolding, surrendering to the process and allowing the universe to guide you. Trust the anointing that rests on your life, embracing your gifts and sharing them with the world. If this word touched your spirit, chosen one, let it be known in the comments, sharing your experience and connecting with others on the journey. And if you desire to continue this journey of healing and revelation, to delve deeper into the mysteries of your soul, you are welcome here. You are part of this community. Until next time, stay grounded, connected to the earth and your own inner wisdom. Stay expectant, open to the blessings and opportunities that await you. And never forget, you were always chosen. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are destined for greatness.